This is a video on how to score the goal assessment. So for the goal, first you need to determine the child's age and their gender because the scores are separated into female and male. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to use a female named Jane, who is 8 years old and 11 months. So to begin scoring the goal, you're going to look at the performance record. You're going to have been checking off how Jane's performance was on these items while you were recording them. So we watched Jane use her utensils to cut the Play-Doh into at least 10 pieces, and we timed her. Jane obtained a score of 35 seconds, so this means that we checked off the box U1 through U2. We go over with this to the progress chart. For the goal, what you do is you circle what the child can achieve in a green, and you circle what they did not achieve in red. But for the purposes of this, since I have to be able to erase, a circle is going to equal green and a square is going to equal red. So back to Jane, she was able to cut the Play-Doh in 35 seconds. So we checked off the box U1 through U2. We go over to the progress chart and we look at cutting. We go over to U1. She obtained that and we circle it. And she also obtained U2. U3 gets a square, which is because Jane did not obtain the highest score. If Jane had been able to cut up her Play-Doh in 30 seconds or less, we would have checked U1 through U3, and these would have all received a circle. So you are going to summarize each row. So we'll continue with the example of the Play-Doh. Jane passed 2 out of the 3 steps. So you go across the row where it says sum of past steps, you write a 2, and you do this for each row. So we'll do another example. For spearing the Play-Doh, Jane was able to do this in 40 seconds. So she gets the box U4 checked because she did it in the range between 31 and 120 seconds. We go over to the progress chart. U4 gets circled. Again, she didn't get to the highest step, so U5 gets a square. So when we add up this row for Jane, she passed 1 of the 2 steps. So sum of past steps is 1. So you continue and you do this for the entire performance record until you have a score for each row. Then you add them up to obtain your fine motor raw score and your gross motor raw score. In this case, Jane's fine motor raw score is 19 and her gross motor raw score is 11. This gets transferred to the front of the record form. Then you add them together to get her total raw score, which is 30. You take the total raw score and you go into the manual to Appendix B, and you find 30, and you go across to get her progress score, which is 503. All right, now that you have Jane's overall goal progress score, we're going to open up the chart again. So her progress score was 503. So you go to 503 on the chart and you make a vertical line down. Now you're going to add 50 to 503 and you're going to subtract 50 from 503 to get a range of Jane's progress. So if you add 50, you get 553, and you're going to make a checked vertical line. If you subtract 50 from 503, you get 453. So you make another checked line. Oh, I didn't finish this one. Okay, so now you have a range of Jane's progress that falls in between these dashed lines. This is her expected performance. So everything that falls within here is what she would be expected to do. Now, if you look to the left of this checkered line, what you want to do is look for squares, aka red circles, because that would be known as unexpected failures. That would be something that Jane should be able to do for her age and development level and is unable to do. If you look to the right of this checkered line and you see any circles, that would be green circles, that would be any unexpected successes. That would be things that Jane is really good at. She's kind of ahead in her development. You notice that there are some squares, aka red circles, to the right, but that doesn't matter because that is above Jane's development level, so you disregard them. So in this case, Jane only has green circles to the left, so she is a typically developing child. But let's say that she had red circles, aka in this example squares, around B7, B5, and B2. That would mean that Jane is struggling with dribbling, hand-to-hand ball play, and floor-to-wall ball play. So she's would be having some gross motor difficulties. You would move over to the intervention targets and you would circle those in red. And those would be things that you want to work on with Jane because she's struggling with them. Now, let's go back to the front of the record form and we're going to find the standard scores for her fine and gross motor. So these are separated by gender. So for her fine motor raw score was 19. We need to go to Appendix A. Her age is 8 years and 11 months, and her raw score for fine motor was 19. So we go to where it says her age, go down until we find 19, and go over, and we see that her standard score is 110. Now we do the same for gross motor. 11 was her gross motor raw score. We go to her age. Go down until we find 11. Her standard score is 87. We always select the confidence interval of 95%. And as you can see for girls' fine motor, the confidence interval value for 95% is 10. So we're going to add and subtract 10 from her standard score. So this is a range of her true performance. Now we're going to do the same for gross motor. The confidence interval, again, you always select 95%. The value in this case for gross motor is 11. So you add and subtract 11 from 87. So you get 76. to 98. Now we can look down here and we see that there's a descriptive range, and that is listed in Appendix A. So Jane, on her fine motor, she's ranging from 100 to 120. So she is,
Make sure you're on the fine motor.
let me see, on the fine motor? Okay, not, thank you. Okay, so we're on girls fine motor. Her range is from 100 to 120. So she is about average. For her gross motor, she kind of falls in between average to mild to moderate challenge. There could be some things that she could work on because her range is 76 to 98. And it kind of overlaps these two. Okay, and the last thing to mention is the percentile rank, and that is listed with the standard score. So